I believe Kevin Samuels talked about this some time ago that, the government benefits from two people who are dating paying rent in two separate places versus coming together, getting married, and sharing a home and sharing bills. So even though, what Trigger Mike was saying, the government doesn't have, much say in it, they do benefit financially from us staying single. Also, I would love if Black Americans can look into homeschooling more. It's so much different than how it was in the past. We can overcome the social problems that,
I'm homeschooling my son.
Oh, you are? That's
Yeah, and somebody actually
amazing.
laughed at me on a panel for it before. Like, and I'm like,
Absolutely not. I'm thinking about doing that. I would love to
yeah,
do that for my future children. I
it's
think
awesome.
the test scores agree when it comes to, children's intelligence with homeschooling, and also you get to dictate what your children learn. A lot of us don't agree with what they're teaching in schools now, and I think we can mitigate that by teaching our own children, preferably the women, but I think it's just best that we take control of our next generation's education.
Absolutely, because they're pushing whatever they want on these kids, and sometimes they're not going to give you a warning about what they're teaching your kids. So my kid comes home and tells me something wild that they taught. Now I have to fight a teacher. I don't want to do that.
And I think it's like more layered than that, right? Especially if we're going to be talking about the Black community, with the crack epidemic, with mass incarceration, like, and just the system that keeps people in poverty. I think that that is divide and conquer, right? And so those were like the first steps to it. And now with the women's empowerment movement and encouraging women to focus on their work, and now it even being taken as far as like you don't need a man, that whole narrative is to destroy the concept of the nuclear family, right? And when you don't have family, you don't have community, and when you don't have community, you don't have progression, right? So I think that is a tale as old as time. I think it's been repeated through history over a multitude in very different ways, but I wholeheartedly agree.
I do agree with it. There is a lot going on, especially with women. I would say, as more women in the limelight become successful, a lot of the young women want to be that and more, but they think that they can just, kind of like what is it Inez has said about not needing a man and stuff like that. I think that's an issue. And I think that is kind of breaking up the unity because there's a lot of women out there that really believe that they don't need a man. They put these thoughts in their mind like, oh, I'm working on myself. I don't need that right now, this, that, and the third. So I just think that that has a lot to do with it. I also think a lot of the way the economy is, it's so expensive. So it's kind of forcing both parents or both individuals to work so many hours to make a certain income so they can, so they can take care of their family.
Yeah. So a lot of times people say government, and I don't think too many people have worked for the government in any capacity before to know that the government is not that efficient when it comes to putting down things for an entire ethnic group. What it really usually is, if we're going to say government, it's a small group. This is what they like to call the deep state that has a certain interest in seeing things go down. It's not like the president don't know what the hell going on. Most senators, most congressmen, and most congresswomen don't know what's going on. What I believe we always talk about the government is actually the private sector. The private sector has a huge interest in women. And the one thing I want y'all to take a notice to is that higher education is what started all this BS, because the price of education has outpaced the increase in wage, right? So when women started going to school no longer became just a thing, it became profitable. So marketing education to women became a thing, marketing basically everything. And from that model is why you see everything pushed toward women. The consumerist everything is pushed toward women. It doesn't really do anything for the government when you look at it on the back end. This country, let's say its foundation, its economy is built on the American mortgage. That means the government has more investment in people building families because families buy homes. Single people don't buy homes like that. I believe it's around 14% for women and 9% for men. Men don't really want to buy a house if they don't have to live in, unless they have a family to put in there. So it's really counterproductive for the government to have interest in single people. It doesn't really have it. Someone in the deep state might see a financial benefit in it, but it's really the private sector that has major interest in women being single and alone. I cannot drive anywhere in the Houston area without seeing new apartment buildings everywhere, even places they're not supposed to be, right? They're not really supposed to infiltrate the suburbs like that. That, you know, it's supposed to be zoned off solely for single family homes, but nope, so many single people that decided to put new apartment complexes there, even though it's going to overcrowd the schools, right? So a lot of these businesses have huge interest in keeping women single and the
I've
family.
been seeing that a lot too. I've been seeing that a lot too, like a lot of apartment complexes right down the street from the house. And I'm like, what is this? Like,
You've never seen that before,
yeah,
right?
I was like, this is so much. And it's like they're making do with whatever little bit of space they got, and they're just building stuff. They build it so damn fast too. But were you done, Trigger? Okay. Chanel, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with Trigger Mike. I believe Kevin Samuels talked about this some time ago that, you know, the government benefits from two people who are dating, paying rent in two separate places versus coming together, getting married and sharing a home and sharing bills. So even though, you know, what Trigger Mike was saying, the government doesn't have, you know, much say in it, they do benefit financially from us staying single. Also, I would love if Black Americans can look into homeschooling more. It's so much different than how it was in the past. We can overcome the social problems that,
I'm
you know.
homeschooling my son.
Oh, you are? That's
yeah, and somebody actually
amazing.
laughed at me on a panel for it before. Like,
Absolutely not. I'm thinking about doing that. I would love to
yeah,
do that for my future children. I
that's
think
awesome.
the test scores agree when it comes to, you know, children's intelligence with homeschooling, and also you get to dictate what your children learn. A lot of us don't agree with what they're teaching in schools now, and I think we can mitigate that by teaching our own children, preferably the women, but I think it's just best that we take control of our next generation's education.
Absolutely, because they're pushing whatever they want on these kids, and sometimes they're not going to give you a warning about what they're teaching your kids. So my kid comes home and tells me something wild they taught. Now I have to fight a teacher. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So anyway, moving on to Sahira.
Yeah, I agree with almost everybody said, like, touch really good points. But looking at it from outside of the United States, these things are happening in my country as well. But I would say it's a mindset, because the government or private sector can push us to, you know, like having to work for both, you know, people having to work, the mother and the father. But if you don't have the mindset that the family goes first, then you're not gonna make it happen. Because for us, it's like, even if the woman has to go to work, what I have noticed the difference is that the man is always helping the woman. When they come home, she's not, or the man is not expecting for her to do everything. So she knows that's her job to do, and she's not complaining about it. But the man kind of meets her halfway, which what I've seen the difference, that the man only wants to be served or attended, and the woman has to go work and do all this stuff. But in what I see here, the difference is that men are always willing to do something. They're always helping in the house. So it's a mindset, because someone can push you to work, and the economy is, you know, effed up everywhere in the world. You know, eggs are also expensive here. So, you know, like over there, how much are you paying for it? Like $12 or something like that?
I saw a $6 carton the other day and was like, what?
$6?
It's not even organic. It's
Wait,
regular
did you say $6?
It was the regular. That's why I was like, "Excuse me, did I?"
Like
I didn't know this
organic,
was
maybe, but
Listen,
dang.
y'all, I
So-
went shopping.
so-
I went shopping the other day and spent $250, and I came home with 3 items. It didn't make sense.
Wow.
I'm exaggerating, but that's how it felt. I'm like, what did I buy? Like, it felt like I got
Makes
nothing.
sense.
Like,
It's the same
it was-
feeling.